What do you get when you combine the world's most well-known puzzle game with a much, much more underrated one? Oh, this is Rubik's Perplexus Fusion. A whole new twist on two of my favorite puzzle and maze games out there. Today, we're going to be unboxing this amalgamation, checking it out, and seeing if it stacks up with the legacy of its two parents. So I'm not exactly sure how interesting this unboxing will be, since we can all clearly see what's inside. But to make things a little bit more interesting, I have a knife. So we're just gonna make swift work of this packaging and open it up here. I want to use the knife. How do people do this? I want to damage as little of the packaging as possible, but I don't think that's going to happen. Oh no, isn't this exciting? Look at that. Oh, it twists like that. So cool. I could just do this all day and this would be satisfying. Maybe not to you, but for me, this is awesome. It could be like ASMR, like bringing up the microphone. That may just sound bad, I don't know. But yeah, here it is. This is the Rubik's Perplexus Fusion. Let's take a closer look and chuck the packaging. I didn't break anything. So here we are, up close and personal with it. Immediate first impressions, like I said. It's so spinny. Like compared to an official Rubik's Cube, this is a bad example. But this turns so slow. I know there's some speed cubes out there that might turn almost as fast as this, but certainly not this caliber. When I first saw this in stores, I originally thought that all 6 faces could turn, and now I realize that that wouldn't make any sense at all. Like, it would be near impossible to make this actually functional. So I think 3, and making them especially spinny faces, is a good compromise. Look at that. So each 3 blocks has a color associated with it, just like a Rubik's Cube. And the goal, I guess, of the Rubik's Cube functionality is to get all 3 colors lined up. So we have red, blue, orange, and green all lined up, and of course yellow and white are just going to be solid on their respective faces. Obviously it's not as difficult a puzzle as a traditional Rubik's Cube, but the difficulty and the fun comes with the actual Perplexus maze. It's very hard to capture Perplexus gameplay, which is something I'm going to be talking about a little bit later, but I'll try to do my best, hold up real close to the camera. Here it says that we start here and I maneuver the ball over to this landing bay. And so how Perplexus works is that there's numbered obstacles that tell you the path, which is especially important in this instance where you don't know where exactly to go. You have to turn the cubes. So I'm gonna just go along, and I fell. So you see a little number 1 there right after the start. So you go along the path, being very careful not to fall immediately off this time. And then there's a number 2 before a drop into the abyss. So what you have to do, I think, is turn it like a Rubik's Cube until the paths match up. So that doesn't match up, and that does. See, there's number 3. So you kind of, yeah, there we go. See, this is really hard to film because it's so twisty and turny and like there's not one good angle. So we go down a little step there and now we're already behind something. So we have to twist it to get a good view. And that's not, oh, that's a bad view. Okay, here we go. If I twist it, you can see a number 4 there on its side. So now we're looking for 5 on, oh, how do you see this? Oh, I already fell. And we're back. If you can see the ball there between 3 and 4, I've lined up 5 right there with that red piece. And so now we can finally make some more progress. Give it a little jiggle. This is a technique I've learned after years of perplexing. So here we are between 5 and 6. Oh, and now we're on the side wall here. So, ooh, a little stair stepper down to 8 and then 9, and I think I've fallen. I have indeed fallen. No, wait. Is this? What does that say? That says 78. Okay. One thing that's really easy to do in Perplexus games is sequence breaks. Going out of sequence, hopping over a railing, and accidentally falling on a place that is way above where you currently are or way below and you have to redo something. That also reminds me, Normally in Perplexus, there are these checkpoints where you start at 1, do that, and then you start at 2, which is halfway through the maze, and then 3 is the final stretch there. Each Perplexus tends to have at least a couple of starting points. But with this one, I don't know if it does, because it's just so hard to get to the wall. Let me check here. The only thing I could find is instances like right here where the track is right against the edge of the wall, and so you can pretty easily just skip to, say, 165 here. So that's kind of cool, but it's kind of disappointing that there's no official checkpoints like in all the other Perplexuses. I think since it's so hard to film, and I'm not sure if you're even getting a good viewing experience anyways, I'm gonna just do a run on my own and see how far I can get without it being filmed. So I played around with this a little and was able to make it to about 27 or 28 using a couple of makeshift checkpoints. And I think my original impressions have just gotten more so. It's super annoying to navigate the outside of the maze once you fall off and you have to restart, especially if you're going for those bonus checkpoints. I've gotten a little bit better at doing so. You have to like find the spots where you can fall through easily and then just get it to the right segment of the Rubik's Cube. So it's gotten worse and better in that regard. And I really love the sequence breaks that are possible with this. It's so easy to just fall off the track because you haven't turned the right side yet and then fall onto a different one lower down that's further along or not than you are. And so I think that's really cool and will encourage like experimentation. And here's a little glimpse or a sneak peek of what you can do if you go all the way and go further in the maze. As I said, I made it to about 27, and according to the packaging, there's over 200 obstacles, so I've really only made it through an eighth of the entire maze. And it was the easiest eighth. I have my work cut out for me if I want to finish this. And that kind of shows you a glimpse of the difficulty of these things. Rubik's are obviously easy once you get the hang of them, and the real challenge comes in becoming faster and faster at solving them. However, Perplexus are just brutal, and the Rubik's Perplexus is no different. That being said, it is incredibly satisfying with obviously the spinniness, but instead of solving each section individually and then going right away like I was doing at first, I found that it's so much better to solve all 3 sections in a row before you go, and then you can just breeze through the sections in a really satisfying way. You know, I've never thought about it before, but Rubik's and Perplexus actually share very many similarities, and a collab between the two was something I should have been expecting. They're both colorful, geometric, 3D shaped base toys that, given their target audience, are surprisingly complicated. Each game has sort of an end goal to work toward, is that you can very easily cheat, but the joy in these games isn't having the ball at the end of the maze or having the cube all the same color. The joy is in the journey, as cheesy as that sounds. Struggling to solve the Rubik's Cube or finesse the Perplexus so the ball goes all the right way. It's just plain fun overcoming a challenge that you first thought would be impossible. Whether it be through finally learning how to do it or finally mastering the hand-eye coordination required to do it. One final similarity between Rubik's and Perplexus is that I got into them both at around the same time of my life and still love them both today because of just how much fun they are. And I think this little fusion right here captures the magic of both what makes Rubik's and Perplexus so much fun in a way that's completely unique to each of their respective series. And yes, I said series. This is not the only Rubik's Cube out there, nor is this the only Perplexus. There are tons of different versions of both brands out there, and I've acquired a fair few of them over the years. Everybody's probably seen a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, but there's also a 2x2, a 4x4, a 5x5, and a 2x2x4. That one's a little weird. I've got several different copies of the 3x3, including this Speed Cube, which is supposed to turn a little faster and can cut corners a little bit easier. There's these off-brand 4x4 and 5x5s, which turn so much better than the official cubes. And finally, a really tiny Rubik's Cube that actually still works, and this thing. It lights up. The Rubik's Perplexus Fusion is a little bit hard to compare with all the rest of these because it's not exactly a traditional Rubik's Cube. Although you can technically solve it by getting all 3 colors lined up. That's not even as remotely as complex as even the 2x2. But I've dabbled in speed cubing a bit, and it basically just comes down to memorizing a bunch of algorithms and knowing when the best time to use each of them. There's an element to that in the Rubik's Perplexus Fusion. I guess you could memorize the different configurations that you need to do for each section of the maze, but the comparison for me is that quick decision making. The fun of getting to a step and asking yourself, okay, what's my next move? Assessing the situation and acting on it. It is a little difficult to describe, but I think this kind of sums up why Rubik's Perplexus is such a good Rubik's Cube. Moving on to my Perplexis collection, starting of course with the original. I have so many fond memories with this thing. I remember we had one in our 5th grade classroom, and during snack time we would each take turns using it. We had the unspoken rule that you get one turn, one go of the maze, and if your ball falls off, that's it. You have to hand yours off to the next kid. So I got really good at this thing, so I would have a longer and longer turn. There's so many fun sections, so many iconic elements of its design, like the colors, the little spiral in the middle. Oh, it's so good. This is by far my all-time favorite. Spin Master, the company that makes Perplexus, took a look at the original Perplexus and said, yeah, let's do that again, except harder. And that's basically what the Perplexus Epic is. It retains all the elements I love about the original Perplexus, but it's so much more difficult. They had to start putting a difficulty meter on their boxes just to show how ridiculously difficult this is. I'd hate to see what a 10 is. It's a fair bit bigger than the original, goes for a sleek white and blue futuristic design. I hate the redesign, by the way. And although I've never finished it, I have had a great deal of fun with this. Love the tube slide, by the way. That's my favorite section, by far, of any Perplexus. I didn't bother getting the Perplexus Rookie, which is basically a much easier version of the original. But Perplexus Spin is an interesting story because its gimmick, how you can spin the core to match up different sections of the track, is clearly what inspired the further development of Rubik's Perplexus. I really liked this as a concept, especially at the time, but looking back at it now and especially comparing it with the Fusion, it's a lot more jank than it needs to be. As a Star Wars fan, I'm glad the Death Star crossover exists, but it's unfortunately quite unremarkable. Like the Twist, all of the tracks are based around a central column, but whereas the Twist has a bunch of crazy angles going on, this is a lot more parallel, and that just makes it kind of boring. I'm fine with it being on the easy side, but this flatness just limits all the creativity that could have gone into this, and while I do like the X-Wing where you spin a little R2-D2 around and you fly the ball around on a magnet, that's a really creative idea. The Darth Vader helmet's obviously cool, and there are lights and sounds, but mine ran out of batteries, and I'm not replacing them because they were honestly kind of a nuisance. They would just flash at random times when it thought you would won. Supposedly, if you do win, there's supposed to be a grand light and sound show, but I never bothered because it would just go off randomly. The lights would flash. It would be hard to play at night, so I normally played with it off anyways, and I'm not bothered about it being out of batteries now. And finally, there's Perplexus Warp, whose gimmick is, it's not a sphere, and that's pretty much it. This one was even more unremarkable than the Death Star, and while I do enjoy the section where you drop from cup to cup, this one was way too easy and way too short. I'm sorry. Oh, and like Rubik's, I also have this mini version of the original Perplexus. It's really, really cute, and it's actually 100% functional. Look at that! And there you have it, a brief take of all the Perplexises, or Perplexuses, I don't know. A brief take on each Perplexus I have in my collection. There we go. As for the Fusion, I would say it's either second tied with Epic for me, or third, under of course the original as my favorite. It's definitely better than all of these more gimmicky ones and actually combines a lot of their strengths. It perfected the really creative twisting mechanic that the Twist introduced. It doesn't roll off a table really easily like the Warp, and it's a cool crossover like the Death Star. If you haven't already guessed, I really like Perplexus, and I'm glad this video finally gave me a chance to talk about them. It's kind of sad, honestly, that they're not as popular as they could be. They're nowhere near the level of popularity that Rubik's has. And I think there are two main reasons for that. As I mentioned earlier, they are a pain in the butt to film, since the whole point of the game is to twist and turn the sphere to make the ball go different directions. It is incredibly difficult, near impossible, to get one consistent angle that captures the magic of what makes it fun to someone watching on the outside. You also have to deal with this lovely noise of the ball rolling around constantly. And it makes audio just a mess. Because even when I'm trying to talk over it now, it's not liking that. You can't hear me. I already have a quiet enough voice. And then you put this into the mix, and even when I set it down, it takes forever for it to stop rolling. Which gives you the choice of either dealing with that or recording your voice separately from the audio of the Perplexus, and that's just a whole lot of extra work that no one really wants to do. I've done a mixture of the two styles for this video, and I honestly don't know which one's worse, because neither of them are exactly desirable. The other big reason that I don't think Perplexus ever had a chance to become super popular is the issue of creativity. Not only are Rubik's Cubes fun to watch being solved super fast, there are also a ton of opportunities for you to like make pixel art, custom Rubik's Cubes, or all sorts of creative stuff. You can't do the same sort of creative things with a Perplexus. I mean, what are you gonna do? Bowl with it or give it a little googly eyes? There's not a whole lot of options. The subject of the videos that we've made on this channel over the past 4 years has varied a lot during that time, but the overall goal has been the same: to do fun, creative, and new things with old costumes, toys, or games that we had as kids. And unfortunately, you really can't do any of that with Perplexus. And that is why I'm so glad that this thing exists. It gave me a chance to talk about two of my all-time favorite hobbies, and turned out to be the perfect fusion between the two of them. And although it's very difficult to explain why the Rubik's aspect of this makes it so much fun, and even more difficult to capture what makes Perplexus in the first place fun, I hope this video did a decent job of explaining why the decision to combine these aspects together was genius. It has seriously been the most fun I've had with either a Rubik's Cube or a Perplexus in a very long time. An update on that, by the way, I've managed to make it all the way to just before 185 in the maze, and unfortunately that looks like it's as far as I'll make it, without using any skips for the time being. It appears that this little blue gap that I need to fit through to make progress is a little too small for the ball to actually fit through, and that may be a manufacturing error or just something that got bumped or shifted when it was being shipped. I know my original mini Perplexus had the same problem. There's a little nub of plastic here on the spiral that actually makes progress after checkpoint 3 impossible. After calling to complain, Spin Master actually sent me another one that actually worked, for completely free, which was super nice of them. So I may end up doing the same for this Rubik's Perplexus here, or alternatively, because there are screws, I may take it apart. I did that with the Epic after one rage-induced shaking broke something loose off in the inside. So I took, I think, a screwdriver, opened up the middle of it, and then made the fix and taped it all back together. It looks a little jankier now, but it still works perfectly fine. Much better than it was when it was broken. So that might be fun to try, maybe for a video, maybe just on my own. But if it works, I'll be able to experience the last 15 or so challenges in the game. And if it doesn't, I can always just call and complain anyways, and hopefully get another free one. And with that being said, that pretty much wraps up everything I wanted to say about the Rubik's Perplexus fusion. I have no idea why, but whenever I try to make a Rubik's or Perplexus video, they always end up being super convoluted. I mean, it started off as a simple unboxing, and then I got into like the mental satisfaction that comes with the speed cubing similarity. I did like a full-on mini review of all of the Perplexuses I own, and then I randomly figured out how to put the goal of the channel into Word, just randomly in this video of all places. Yeah, I don't know, that's weird. This was the thumbnail of the last Rubik's video that I tried and scrapped. As you can see, it was probably even more convoluted, but hopefully my ramblings in this video have been entertaining to at least someone out there, or maybe caused you to give either Rubik's and or Perplexus a try. If either of those are the case, or you have something else Rubik's Perplexus related you want to let me know, head on down to those comments down below and let's have a little chat. I've been tinkering around with some ideas for our next video, which may be sooner than you think. So until then, thank you very much for watching and have a perplexing day. Okay, I'm sorry, but something else has come up. You know how I talked about in this video we've never really been able to make Perplexus content work with the format of our channel? Well, the same goes for video games. No idea how to fit gaming content on the B3, but it would be very fun to try, and I do need to get some more use out of this $100 capture card I bought for this one video. So, could you do me a favor? just head over to the video linked in the description below and give my comment over there a big fat thumbs up. We could potentially win a channel with 300,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate it. Thanks, and enjoy your regularly scheduled end screen.